Hi, everyone, and welcome to Indeed Live. I'm Abby Carlton, and it's great to be back with you again this week. If you are new to our live stream, I am Indeed's Director of Social Impact. So that means that I lead our work on how we are looking to address bias and barriers in hiring globally. And we do that through product innovation, through strategic partnerships, and through efforts in our community. Really glad that you joined us here today. If you've been here before or if you're new, welcome. Glad to have you here. We're really trying to use this space, this Indeed Live session, to connect with you, to try to answer your questions. We know that there's a lot going on right now in the world of jobs, in the economy with COVID-19, and many people are looking for a job suddenly or have new or different questions. And we just want to connect one-on-one and try to give you the most up-to-date job search information and resources possible. So we're going to try to do that here today. A big part of that is to make this as helpful and relevant as possible for you. We want to know what's on your mind. So you might have seen me when you were logging on, asking you to go down into the comments. I'll ask you to do it again. Please go into the comments. Let us know where you're joining us from. Are you looking for a job right now? What kind of job are you looking for? What questions are on your mind? We're going to have our moderators in the chat. So as you're putting those questions in, they're going to be ready to answer them. And then also next week and in the weeks to come, we're going to take those questions that we're hearing from you and make sure that we use those to frame up what we're sharing in our Indeed Live. So please keep putting the questions in as we go today. Great. So let me tell you a couple of the things that we are going to cover in today's live stream. First, I want to talk about some of the updates that we have made on Indeed to make it easier for you to look for and find a job right now. Then I want to talk about some employers who are urgently hiring right now. And I want to remind you how to find and apply to jobs on Indeed. Next, we'll talk about the current state of the job market, lots of questions about that. And then I'm going to share some advice for those of you who might be thinking about making a career change right now. And then we will wrap up with some of your questions and success stories from the past week. As always, a quick disclaimer before we get started. The information in this video is for informational purposes only. Indeed is not a career or legal advisor. And also just FYI before we jump in, you can come back at any time and find this video on Facebook. We're also going to post it shortly on Indeed's YouTube channel, so you can go find it in either of those places. We're going to put all the links that I share today in the comments below, so no worries about taking notes. Let's start with Indeed updates. Indeed has made a few changes to our website to make finding a job during COVID-19 faster and easier. I've been sharing those changes with you each week as they've gone live, and I thought it would make sense to just share a recap of them now. Hopefully, many of these updates are going to be helpful to you immediately as you're looking for a job. First, as I mentioned, or as was mentioned last week, our career guide website is now available in Spanish. You can find it at indeed.com/orientacion-profesional. Second, many of you have been asking questions about remote work or working from home. We've made some changes on Indeed to make finding work from home or remote jobs simpler. Now, employers who post a job on Indeed can specify whether that job is fully remote or if it is temporarily remote due to COVID-19. And if you are looking for a remote job, all you need to do, go to Indeed.com, you'll see the what and where boxes. Just put the word remote in either the what or the where box right there on the Indeed homepage. And then you're going to see jobs that are available that are either fully remote or temporarily remote due to COVID-19. And when you click in, you're going to be able to see which of those it is. Also, as new remote jobs become available, if you want to find out what's new, what's just been posted that's a work from home job, I'd really encourage you to sign up for an Indeed job alert for remote jobs. It's pretty much the same thing as searching for a job. Just go put remote in that what or where box, set up a job alert, and then we will send you updates when new remote jobs become available. You can decide how frequently you want to receive those, and you can turn them off at any time. On a different note, we're hearing from many of you that right now the thing that is most important to you is finding a new job as quickly as possible. So I want to share some features that can help you on that front. First, Indeed has an urgently hiring tag. If an employer is looking to bring on somebody right away, they can add this urgently hiring tag to their job posting. If you want to find these jobs, just keep an eye out when you look at a job posting for a reddish clock toward the top of the posting, and it'll say urgently hiring right next to it. And that'll give you an idea if this is a role that an employer is looking to fill really quickly. Second, you can also signal to employers and let them know that you are ready to work immediately for any position right now. If you want to do this, go to your Indeed resume and you'll see an option right at the top there to add hashtag ready to work. Add that to your resume, and that's going to allow employers to easily find and contact you for job opportunities where they're looking to hire somebody right away. So, what else could we do to make finding a job easier? What are some of the biggest challenges that you are experiencing right now as you are looking for jobs and trying to find jobs online? Let us know. Put those down in the comments below. One of the things that I've often thought about when I've been applying for jobs is how am I going to make my application stand out when I know there are many others who are applying for the same role? We've talked about that in some of our past Indeed Lives. If that's something that you want to know more about, let us know and we can talk about that again, or we can also point you to previous conversations that we've had around that. So let us know what's on your mind when it comes to looking for jobs. One thing I want to share before we move away from this topic of urgently hiring employers, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we have an Indeed career guide page that lists urgently hiring employers. It gets updated each week, and you can find it at go.indeed.com/hiring now. We're going to put that link in the comments below as well. And I thought it would be helpful to share a couple of employers who are urgently hiring, national employers, from this week's list. So the first employer is Kindred Healthcare. They are urgently hiring and holding virtual interviews for a range of registered nurse and certified nursing assistant roles in California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Washington, and elsewhere. Their apply to hire process usually takes under 1 week. So this means from the time that you submit your application, it will typically take 1 week to interview and hire you if they decide that you're the right fit. So it's a much quicker process than what might be standard. Another urgently hiring employer is G4S. They are currently urgently hiring and holding same-day interviews for a range of security officer and security technician roles in Illinois, Florida, California, New York, Michigan, and some other states. GPM Investments is another one urgently hiring, holding same-day interviews for sales associates, team leaders, assistant managers, maintenance technicians, and more in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Texas, and elsewhere. And like some of the employers I mentioned before, their apply to hire process is also under 1 week. Finally here, Family Dollar is urgently hiring and holding same-day interviews for customer service representatives, assistant store managers, and more roles in California, New York, Texas, Virginia, Florida, and elsewhere. And again, this is one where the apply to hire process takes under 1 week. So check out that link below, the career guide article that I mentioned. You can find the full list of urgently hiring employers there. And as I mentioned, we keep updating that each week. So that's something that's going to be really good to keep going back to. And let me know in the comments, is it helpful to share, to walk through these employers, where they're located, some of the roles that they're hiring for? Is there other employer information that would be particularly helpful to you right now? So let us know. So if you decide that you want to apply for one of those urgently hiring jobs or other jobs on Indeed, I thought it might be helpful to take a moment and remind folks how to apply for jobs on Indeed. Maybe you're new to Indeed and you haven't applied to many jobs through us before. So to start searching and applying to jobs on Indeed, the first thing you'll want to do is create or update your free Indeed profile. This is going to make it easier for you to apply to jobs quickly once you find something that is interesting to you. After you do that, you can browse for jobs by location using the search bar. And then when you've identified a potential employer, just hit that apply button and you can follow the instructions from there. Also, here's a tip. Make sure that when you're applying for a specific job, try to tailor your application to the job that you're applying for. Take a really close look at the job description, research the company, talk to others who work there, if possible, if you know folks, and then you can use all of that information to really tailor your application and put yourself in the best possible position when you apply. Going back to that point I made before about really trying to stand out amongst other applicants. Also, just one more note on applying to jobs. When you're searching for a job, it's important to protect yourself against potential bad actors. So look out for anyone or any job description where you're asked to wire money, where you're asked to provide passwords of any kind, or if you receive a check via email from an employer. All of those tend to be signs of scams, and we want you to report them. At Indeed, it's really important for us to know when you find these posts so that we can make sure we remove them and that we're just doing everything we can to protect our users. If you do need to report a job, you see one of these things or something else that seems suspicious about a role, all you need to do is click on that posting, scroll down to the bottom of the post, and select the Report Job button down at the bottom. That'll take you to a Report This Job form, fill that out, submit it, and really these reports are going to help us do our best to make sure that we don't have any spam, fraud, or low quality postings on Indeed. So with that, I thought we could take a step back and look at the bigger economic picture. You've been asking us, how is COVID-19 impacting the job market? In episodes past, we've often had one of our Indeed economists, Daniel Culbertson, share some insights with us about what's happening in the job market, in the economy right now. We've gotten so many great insights from Daniel that I thought maybe I would give you today a recap of one of the last insights from him that seems particularly relevant to the moment we find ourselves in. So Daniel explained that after going from a near 50-year low unemployment rate of 3.5% in February to just over 26 million workers filing for unemployment benefits in the past 5 weeks, it nearly goes without saying that the labor market has shifted dramatically. While the specifics of the economic recovery depend largely on the course of the virus, in the near term, job seekers will almost certainly face a challenging labor market with a high level of competition for what job opportunities will be available. So essentially, what Daniel is sharing, and what I think we all feel sort of viscerally right now, is that the job market has changed dramatically in a matter of weeks and months. I think many of us are probably sort of experiencing some whiplash right now, especially if you were somebody, maybe you were looking for work when the crisis hit, or if you find yourself recently unemployed. It is a time of immense change, and it's affecting all of us in some way. So please know that if you are feeling overwhelmed or uncertain about what the right next step is for you right now, you are not alone. That is why we are here. That is why we are going to keep coming here week after week to try to answer your questions and provide resources to help everybody meet this moment and tackle the challenges that you're experiencing. Also, if you're comfortable, please feel free to share your story in the comments. You may find that there are many people right now who can relate to what you're experiencing. A final note on Daniel, on our hiring lab, on our jobs and economic data. If this is an area where you want to dig deeper, you want to learn more, I would suggest that you check out www.hiringlab.org. That is a site, part of Indeed, that's run by our team of economists, and you can get really great up-to-date labor market updates there. This brings me to our tip of the week. With everything that is happening in the job market right now, we're hearing from many of you that you're thinking about maybe making a career transition. That could be to a new role, to a new industry, or both. So that's where our tip of the week comes into play. If you are interested in changing careers, set goals, do your research, and be adaptable. So let's break that down piece by piece. In order to set goals, first you want to get really clear about what you're looking for. To do that, I would suggest thinking about your current job or your most recent job and making a list of the elements that you really liked or were really important to you about that job, and conversely, the things that you didn't like. And I would just say, make that list as comprehensive as possible to start. After you've done that, you can take that list and use it to pull out a shorter list of the factors that will be most important to you in your next role. That could be things like flexible hours, compensation, whether you'd like to work solo or in a team setting, remote, and so on. Once you've done that, you can start to do some research on the types of jobs that could meet your needs. Approaching a job search with this needs-based mindset may help you zero in on really what you're looking for in that career transition. And if you're still not sure where to start, or you just want to get a broad sense of different options, I'd encourage you to check out indeed.com/career. You can go there, learn more about different jobs, their average salary, typical career paths. It's a great way to just explore and learn more. Another great way to do research is through your network. If you know people in a field that you're considering and you want to learn more, don't be afraid to reach out to them and see if they're willing to chat. And we'll add down in the comments below, we have a link to an Indeed career guide article that has examples of questions that you can ask in one of these informational interviews where you're just trying to have that first conversation and learn more. So check that out. Essentially, you want to use this conversation to think about what are your needs and your expectations and how well do they line up with the role that you might be considering. And sometimes you're going to discover either in those conversations or in a role that it isn't a good fit. I can share, earlier in my career, I thought that I wanted to be a researcher, and I got a job in that space. And I'll say after trying that out, I realized that it was really important to me. That was a very sort of solo job, individual contributor job, and I really wanted to work in a team setting. And so I ended up finding a new job that met that need for me. So it's just really helpful to explore and get as clear a picture as possible of what it's going to feel like to make that transition and have that new role. So you can get a sense, hopefully even before you're on the job, if you think it's going to be a good fit. If you don't have personal connections in a field, we have a couple of resources for you. You can consider going to one of our Indeed community threads where you can learn about different roles, talk to people there about the jobs that they have or have had. We also have a YouTube series that's called Career Paths, which explores different industries and jobs. So you might find that helpful. You can go to the Indeed YouTube page to find that, as well as past videos from our Facebook Lives. By doing all of this research on the front end, you're more likely to get a sense of whether a new career is going to be a good fit for you, and that research is just going to help you stand out in the interview. So that leads me to the final part of this tip, which is to be adaptable. First and foremost, I would really urge you to consider how you can reframe your prior experience in another field as preparation for what you aim to do now. All experience is good experience. So you just need to do that work if you're considering a career transition from one role, one sector to another, to think about how do you connect the dots for a potential employer so you can show them how the experience and skills you have in your last role map to this new job. Go back to think about your transferable skills. We've talked about this before. Make a list of those hard and soft skills that you have learned and that you've demonstrated in past roles. And think about how those would equip you well here, even if the role itself on the face looks somewhat different than what you've done before. And then just make sure that those strengths show up in your application in a way that the employer can see. They go through a lot of applications a day, so you just want to make it as easy as possible for them to get that relevant information quickly. Put it in your cover letter. Use your cover letter to succinctly explain your past experience, how it prepared you for this role. And then I'd wrap up that cover letter with a couple of brief sentences summarizing why you're pivoting and why you think that your unique background would be an asset for this new employer. Refresh your resume with that same mindset. You want to take out any buzzwords that might have been really particular to your last job or industry and describe your past work experience in ways that will show that they could be clearly useful to your new role. For example, let's say you were a personal assistant and now you're applying for a sales role. You can highlight how of the learnings that you took away around things like communication or organization, prioritization, things that will be relevant in this new role as well. And then start applying. It's a good idea to include relevant keywords from the job description in your resume, if applicable. And we talked about this a couple of episodes back. So if you want to do a deeper dive on refreshing your resume, check out we have a COVID-19 updates playlist that's part of our YouTube channel. So go to youtube.com/Indeed, go to that COVID-19 updates list, and you can see all the past episodes as well as other relevant content from this series. Okay, so to recap, if you're switching careers, get clear on your needs, do your research, and think about how to frame your past experiences in ways that show your value and the value that you can bring to new employers. Next, we are going to answer some questions from last week, but before we do, just want to take another moment and ask you, please go down in the comments and let us know what questions can we answer for you. Do you want more information on work from home jobs, on resume updates and tips? Just let us know. What do you want to know? What would be most helpful? So now on to the questions for this week. So first question here. I got a job just before the COVID crisis hit, and then a few weeks later, I was laid off from my new position. Should I list a job I had only for a couple of weeks on my resume? Or will that look bad? So first of all, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I will say before I answer your question, if you are looking for unemployment resources right now, we have a webinar called Unemployment Explained that is available on YouTube, on Indeed's YouTube channel, and you might find that helpful right now. It has lots of information about programs that are available while you're unemployed. But to get more directly to your question, I'll share what we typically recommend and then explain how COVID might create some nuances here. So normally, no matter what the job or how long you've had it, it's important to consider what you were able to accomplish during that time. If a role is on your resume, you should assume that employers are likely to ask you about it. So it's important that you can really clearly communicate what you did and what you learned from that role. If you're only in a job for a short period of time, you might not have any significant takeaways to share with an employer, which is probably leading you to question whether it's worth it to list it at all. But I would say that this is where some of that nuance comes into the equation. Given how many people have suddenly become unemployed due to COVID-19, listing an abbreviated job experience in this current recent time frame is unlikely to raise too many eyebrows. So in this case, I'd recommend list the experience, include the dates so that association with the COVID-19 crisis is clear, and then think about how you might answer questions about that experience. For example, if you just weren't there long enough to really accomplish much in a short period of time, maybe you can pivot when you're asked questions about that to talk more about why you were hired for that role in the first place and the skills that you brought to the role. So hopefully that's helpful. Another question here. I am about to graduate college and I don't have a job lined up. It seems like the labor market is going to be really unpredictable for a while, especially in the field that I majored in, hospitality. Should I just go to graduate school? So first, I recommend that you go back and check out our last live stream from last week. Our guest host, Muna, addressed an action plan for students entering the workforce for the first time. So go check that out. She really goes deep into this topic. But to give you, a couple of thoughts on this, getting an education, getting more education is immensely useful if you have a clear understanding of how it will help you further your goals. I'd also say that graduate school isn't the only option. You can think about professional development training, online certifications, skills classes. All of these things can be helpful for recent graduates, and they require less time and financial investment than enrolling in a new degree. So, in short, if you feel equipped and you believe that it will help you achieve your goals to head back to school, then it could be worthwhile. But going back to school to defer entering the workforce right now isn't necessarily the best or the only choice. If you can show employers that you can find a job and perform well in this environment, that can really demonstrate resilience and flexibility. So I'd encourage you to just consider all of your options that are available to you, even if it's not necessarily in the industry that you were thinking about entering before. Okay, one more question here. How can we expect the hiring process to change as a result of this pandemic? How should we prepare? So this is a great question. It's one we're getting a lot right now. It's on, I think, all of our minds as we start to see economies reopening in some states. We're actually going to do a deep dive on this topic in one of our upcoming episodes in the next few weeks, once we've continued to gather some more data on this front. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I can share with you what we know right now. I would say that it is wise to prepare yourself for a different hiring process than the one you expected. You may be asked to interview virtually. This type of interview can have its own unique quirks and challenges, so you just need to be ready to adapt to that. Similarly, your primary form of networking right now might be online and specifically through social media. So I'd encourage you to check out professional interest groups online and reach out to some of your connections, reconnect with folks. Also consider focusing on building your online presence and network right now. It's a really good time to do that. And lastly, your hiring and onboarding process may also be a bit up in the air or a little bit slower than usual. Employers, like all of us, are in this phase of rapid readjustment. They're trying to figure it out as they go along. And I think we just have to kind of go along with that ourselves and be flexible in this moment. Okay, well, finally, I would love to wrap up today with some good news. With everything that's going on right now, it can be easy to feel like there aren't job opportunities out there. But I'm happy to say that job seekers and employers are connecting every day. And on Indeed, we are really lucky that when job seekers get hired, they often choose to share their stories with us. So I want to conclude today by sharing a few stories of folks who got hired in the last week. An Indeed user from Manassas, Virginia wrote, "Thanks to Indeed, I was able to find a job very quickly after being without a job for only a few days. The constant posting of jobs gave a big variety and more chances, especially to be able to apply for jobs that are in the environment and title I want." Another user from Caledonia County, Vermont wrote, "I signed up for my Indeed account today. First position I applied for immediately showed interest. I did an assessment and they offered me the position." And finally, a user from Washington, D.C. wrote, "Easy applying, resume uploading, and it really helped me narrow down jobs near me and urgently hiring. Thanks again." So to each of these folks, congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. If you ever need some inspiration during your own job search, I recommend that you check out gotajob.indeed.com. This page shares up-to-date success stories from Indeed users around the world, and we hope that you will share your story there too. Okay, that is all for our live stream today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know if this was helpful by commenting below, or you can like and subscribe. If you know somebody who this information could be useful for, consider sharing it with them or encouraging them to join us. We're here pretty much every Monday sharing information and updates with you. And just really, please go down into the comments. Let us know what's on your mind. All of this input helps us understand what to focus on each week. So we hope you will join us next week for another update. We hope you found this helpful, and we will see you soon. Thanks.